report on far too often: our children and teens dying from gun violence. And sometimes they're getting access to guns right inside their own homes to kill or injure somebody else or even themselves. In tonight's Healthy Living segment, Chris Ramirez from UNM Health shows you the free resource that could mean the very difference between life and death.
It has happened in our own community and tens of thousands of times across the country.
It is actually a public health crisis. That is why we're talking about it.
Children who get a hold of a gun with tragic consequences.
It's important to recognize that gun fatality or death by firearms has become the #1 killer for pediatric patients. That's children between the age of 0 to 24.
According to the CDC, gun deaths among children 0 to 17 in the U.S. increased by 106% from 2013 to 2020. That year, more than 10,000 people in this age range were killed by gunfire.
Having a gun, there is a sense of responsibility with it, and making sure that it is safe, particularly from those who have the potential to harm or be killed by it.
Last year, the UNM Children's Hospital received 3,000 gun locks. These gun locks are free to families and can be found at all UNM Hospital pediatric clinics, the UNM Hospital Pediatric Emergency Room, and the UNM Police Department.
I'm Officer Jennifer Lucero with the UNM Police Department.
Using a gun lock is easy and creates a new level of safety in your home.
With our guns, this one is unloaded. We are going to, this is a typical semi-automatic lock. So with this, for our gun locks, we are going to be sure we're storing it with the magazine empty. We're going to lock our ejection port back. From here, the cable goes through the ejection port and through the magazine well. And from there, we are going to lock the gun, and typically that's how it is stored for safety reasons. So there's no way they can get the magazine in here or anything that could be harmful.
Do not be, surprised if your pediatrician inquires about whether or not you have a gun. They should also be asking how you are storing that gun, and it's important that we talk about how weapons are stored in your home.
Locking up guns is a major step parents can take to ensure they aren't playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette with safety.
We are joined now by Dr. Richard Miskimmons, who is a trauma surgeon at UNM Hospital. Dr. Miskimmons, thanks so much for being here. I mean, you see far too often what happens when children, teens get their hands on guns, and then ultimately you're trying to save their lives.
Yes, we see it far too often. There are a lot, we've seen a significant increase in the number of firearm injuries that we have with kids and young adults, especially in the last 5 years. So
obviously, we know the worst that could happen. A child, a teen loses their life because of gun violence, but even surviving a shooting, even if it's accidental, can have horrible ramifications for the rest of their lives.
I think that's something that we really underappreciate is the morbidity that comes with surviving a gunshot injury. We are always hearing about people that have died and the tragedy that happens when they die. But living with a gunshot after surviving can be significant. You might not be able to use your arm anymore. Bullets tend to find people's spines, and we see a lot of people that are paralyzed. Ostomy bags, the list goes on and on. And it's just not something I think we appreciate.
Yeah, truly life-altering because of one gunshot. What would be your final piece of advice to parents so that they hopefully never have to meet you in one of the worst moments of their lives?
I really think that keeping your firearms safely stored in your home is probably the best thing that you can do. Often we think about a little kid fumbling around in the nightstand and being shot. And that's really not what happens most of the time. A lot of what happens is the young teenager comes home and they're distraught about something and they commit suicide, or someone gets upset and they take their parents' firearm and take it to school and shoot somebody. Having your firearms locked up and safely stored is really what prevents those things from happening. They take a moment of confusion or a moment of struggle for an individual and then make them pause, and then they don't act on it because they don't have access.
A true way to prevent a tragedy. Yeah. Dr. Richard Miskimmons, thank you so much for all of the information today, and we'll have more information on those free gun locks at KOB.com. Eddie?